I've shown you for a long time. Pictures of them.
Yeah.
It's going to be super casual. We'll talk about it.
All right, we are live.
Okay, great. Just going to close this. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Abel Contemporary Gallery. I'm Teresa Abel, and I'm here with Ryan Myers. Thanks, Ryan.
Hello.
We're here to talk to Ryan about his work, and we are so excited about his current show called About Face. His solo show in the gallery is up through May 29th. It's an outstanding show, and so thanks for joining us here. We're live. This can be seen on Facebook Live. It's also streaming on our website. It'll be taped so that people can watch it after the fact. And if you want to ask questions, you can go to Facebook and you can type in any questions. Lauren will interrupt us if the question seems really pertinent to the conversation at hand. Otherwise, we'll get to all the questions at the end of the talk. We're also joined by Ann Orleski tonight. She is the gallery director, and Lauren Miller, who is the assistant gallery director. And we're now looking at a video of Ryan's show. If you're not familiar with the gallery, Abel Contemporary is located just outside of Madison, Wisconsin in Stoughton. We're in a beautiful tobacco warehouse that we renovated, and I told Ryan if he came here tonight, he could have all the beer he wanted.
Not all the beer, I have to drive home.
Well, that's true. Okay, so the show looks great, and I particularly, so we're looking at, there's some shots of some teapots. So you made some amazing teapots for this show.
Yeah, I don't make many teapots. I mean, a handful a year, less than half a dozen. And I was excited to have ideas or newer ideas. And, you know, I don't even know how many I brought. I probably brought half a dozen.
Yeah, I think so.
But some of them, you know, I've done similar forms, you know, over, and some are brand new that, you know, I want to revisit and explore, and, you know, potentially change.
Yeah,
So
they're great. I thought when we were installing the show, I loved them so much, I thought sometime we could do a whole show of teapots. Although I'm assuming part of the reason you don't make an enormous amount of them is they're really time consuming.
yeah, no, they're super time consuming, and then they're really hard to paint the colors on and the slips, because I do that all when it's greenware before it's expired the first time. Some of it's just ideas. I feel it's funny, now that I'm doing less art fairs, and it's nothing to do with the art fairs at all, I have less ideas. It's the time of driving and zoning out.
Yeah.
So I have less of that, which I need to make more of an effort just to not have a screen or not be thinking.
Right, I know what you mean.
So,
Yeah. Oh, here's one of the teapots from the show, which is just great.
so I've done that form, excuse me, multiple times, but this one I changed so the top handle, you know, is comfortable, but then you have the tail of the bird, so you can like kind of use both hands to pour it, and it's, you know, it's not extremely functional. I mean, it pours fine, but you know, I'm trying to improve on the functional aspect of the sculptural pots each time I do them.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I was thinking about, so this show has functional pieces. There's a few sculptures that are just pure sculpture. But obviously, you know, you work a line between figurative and sculptural, and but they all seem ritualistic in a way. Like, I mean that, I don't mean that in a heavy-handed way, but
No, that's kind of what I want. I grew up around antiques, and you know, my dad was into furniture mainly, so and some American Indian artifacts. But I kind of want them to look like artifacts or look like they have, previous life. Not that they were just dug up and they're distressed, but yet at the same time, the surfaces are distressed and look like they have some age. Need more. I need help.
Yeah, no,
You
because, and I know, so people might not, you're also, I know, because I know you,
Mhm.
that your work has also been influenced by pre-Columbian work
Mhm.
and, just a lot of ancient pottery.
Mhm.
And so it doesn't, I mean, obviously, if you know about that kind of work, you can see where the influence is. It's
Mhm.
not derivative. It's not like you're trying to make fake antiques.
Yeah.
But it's a mix of what you do and those influences. And so, yeah, anyway, I think they look like they could be artifacts. If someone later dug them up
Mhm.
1,000 years from now and they exist, one might wonder what the ritual was associated with.
Yeah. What the use was. I mean,
Right.
a lot of the pre-Columbian things, which I can probably research and find out more. But they don't have a blatant, you don't look at them and think of one certain thing. I don't really know what they were used for.
Right.
Looking at it. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, because I was thinking before this talk on those, I love, that's the same teapot for people.
Mhm.
That's both sides of it. It's really great.
So, you look at that and then pre-Columbian stuff, they have a lot of multiple chamber pieces. And a lot of them actually made sounds when the liquid would pour through and mimic animals and stuff like that. So mine don't do that, but it's still based off of that double bubble that you see a lot of pre-Columbian work.
Okay, so now everyone has an assignment to, after this talk, to Google pre-Columbian strands. The faces that you do, I'm going to switch gears a little bit, but it's related. The faces that you do and the style that you bring to it, that's clearly yours.
Mhm.
I feel like you've been doing that since I've met you. So you started to show in the gallery since 2005. And I have in my studio an early cup that you made from all that time ago. And I think even if someone walked in, they would know that it was clearly yours. And it's pretty old. And at some point we have some pictures that Lauren's going to bring up of some older pieces.
Oh, geez.
Oh, here, yeah. So an early
Yeah, that was one of the first teapots.
Yeah.
I like it, but it's not very functional. That whole upper space is
no, I know, but
pointless.
these are, I think, I pulled these up from the art gallery archives, and I think these are like from 2006 or 2007.
I do like that open head.
Yeah, it's great.
That looks like my face. Frowning.
Yeah, but when we first, my husband Tim saw your MA show, I think, or your MFA show, one of the two, and was really, really blown over by your work. So early on, even when you were a student.
It was before my MFA show because I don't know if you'd be blown away by my MFA show. It was just one of the heaviest shows.
Okay, but whatever it was great, and then we started to show your work. But you had a very, very clear, a strong point of view aesthetically. I don't even know if you realized that you did what you did. And I think for a lot of artists, when you're a student, you're either working on your technical skills. Well, everyone should be working on their technical skills. But for some people, it's more of a struggle to find their voice. And I mean, from my perspective, it just seemed like you had it. Did it feel like that, or did you work hard?
Yeah, I felt like I had more of a voice then than I do now. In a way, I mean, it's changed, but when I was just making sculpture for the most part, at that time, it was all child-based work. And I definitely was just making work off of those emotions and feelings of being a young father and a single father and then school full-time and working and trying to make artwork. So that was a little different. Now I feel like I struggle to have ideas for sculptures that are, I mean, not that I don't have ideas for sculptures, but the meaning comes later. Means sometimes a year after I make them, it'll pure. But with the pots, I've always been drawn to pottery. It's a little easier to just think of different forms and how I can incorporate those forms with my work. So it's a little more mindless, I guess. I don't know. I mean, not that it is, but it's simpler, And then I can make work, I can make a bird bowl, and then I can feed off that. I'm like, well, okay, I'm gonna make it spouted. And then I finish it, and then I use it, and then I'm like, well, technically, now I have to change this to make it more functional. So
Yeah. So since we're going back to that, for people who don't know, you studied at the University of Wisconsin-Madison and got your MFA, and you did your undergraduate.
at Viterbo,
Okay.
across. I got my art ed degree and the BFA. So I was one of the first art students to get that, or I was the first art student, I should say.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, those are old.
Yeah, so those are the old head cups, and the one I have in my studio is actually a similar form. I think it's a nicer, like, I still really, it's one of my favorite pieces of yours. Well, part of it is just because it feels nostalgic.
Yeah.
But
And those were fired in Anacama. So I feel like those are,
yeah,
hit or miss if they're great or not.
right. But you can see the face, you have that same face.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's reminiscent of you. I remember the early work we showed were some of the sculptures of children.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously they were your daughter. I mean, it seemed like there was something to do with
Yeah.
her, and she looks like you, so it makes sense
Yeah,
that they kind of
yeah,
look like
yeah,
you. Yeah.
Well, I mean, as far as the eyes and stuff, all the things that I do to my work now, I've done them multiple different ways till I, came up with style and a technique that I enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And now it's, it's not robotic, but I do things in a specific order. I'll just say what order. I start with the nose and I'll sculpt the nose. And then I cut a line for the mouth. I add a coil for the upper lip, a coil for the bottom lip. Finish those off, and then I do the eyes last. And I used to do, it's silly, I did the right eye and then the left eye. Sometimes they'd be a little off. And then we watch family shows. So shows that we can watch with a 6-year-old. And we were watching a makeup contest. And I like them, but I'm a huge fan. But they were saying if you're right-handed, you need to start with the left side and then go to the right. And then things will be even. So since that dumb makeup show, I've been doing it that way, most of the time. And sometimes I still forget, but it's funny how it works.
And it works.
Yeah.
I'm going to think about that the next time I paint a face.
Yeah.
That's funny. Wow. So was there anyone that you studied with in particular that you think left a big impact on your work or helped you, I don't know, figure things out?
Not specifically with the work, but work ethic.
Yeah.
Bruce Hottle, he was an adjunct teacher and he was a machine. I mean, I've seen anyone produce as much work as he does. Before that, Mike Knox introduced me to wood firing, and I fell in love with it. I'm firing in a different style kiln, which isn't as fun as the kiln that he taught me how to use, but I still get enough of the flavor, to keep me using it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm dirty and grinding because I split wood for half a day today by hand. And I've been splitting wood like 3 days in a row by hand. I have a huge pile, which I don't need to do it, but I've been enjoying the weather. So
Good. So this is another teapot. And so the heads are the cups that come out. It's a great form. Is that based on?
Well, that's based on I was doing pieces where it was a figure, but the heads were cups and the heads came off.
It's great.
And, before that, the base was not functional. It's just,
Yeah.
base, the body.
Right.
But So I've had this idea for quite a while, and I just never did it. So
Yeah.
yeah, it seems fun. You know, and you can rotate the heads and make them, you know, look like they're interacting a little more, or communicating. So I think if I did this again, I'd make the heads further apart, put ears on them, so then you could play, seem more like they are communicating. They have an ear.
Oh, but I didn't think about that. They don't seem earless, I guess.
Yeah, there just wasn't room. Well, some pieces too, like I'll still do head cups without ears, you know, and just
Right,
sometimes it looks right and sometimes, you know, it looks like it needs more.
right. So you got out of art school and you knew you wanted to be an artist.
Mhm.
And you have done some teaching, but if I remember correctly, you wanted to be a studio artist.
Mhm.
And the first time you showed with us was in 2005, and it was in a ceramics invitational. And I remember there were these wall pieces that were these girls that hung.
Mhm.
And then I remember there were some other small things. And no one really knew who you were in our gallery anyway, because you were a student. But I don't know if you remember, but we sold everything, I think. And in fact, some of the pieces, I remember people would come in and they were angry that everything was sold because they wanted them. And there's this thing that happens sometimes with some artists, you know, there's a lot of phenomenal artists, but why someone taps into a certain zeitgeist or connects with people or something. But I feel like you always did that, that your work just connected with people and they responded to it and they wanted to live with it. And every show we have of yours, this show is doing tremendously well. Congratulations. And your career is doing well. And so it's been a long time since 2005. And now you're showing all over the country. And I guess what I was wondering is, if after all this time, did you have an idea what you thought being a professional artist would be like? And how does the reality of that match or not match? Or do you not think about that?
I guess I don't think about it. I mean, there's things that I want, you know, I want my own outdoor kilns. I want a bigger studio space. But it wasn't up until 5 years ago that I had a separate living space for studio compared to living space. So, you know, it's that part of it is what makes me feel like I'll be successful is when I have those things, because I feel like I should have those things now. And I feel like I could have hard charged things earlier on, but I was just trying to live and be my child.
Right.
And make it work. So
it's no small thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which I'm still trying to do. So
yeah.
But different small child.
Right. No, I mean, I understand that you work incredibly hard. I know that, we're friends. You work all the time. You can barely keep up with your deadlines. So I guess you don't kind of have the luxury to sit back and think, wow, look how fantastic things have turned out.
Well, I just had, I was part of the Clay Collective pottery tour. The weather was horrible, but I had a great weekend.
Yeah.
And we had friends over, Nick DeVries, a potter and his family were with us. They left Monday. And I don't know, an hour after they left, I was in the studio because I don't want to clean the house. Like, what else was I gonna do? So I started making again, and you know, I don't have deadlines right now, but I've been in the studio every day this week, and I shipped out some things yesterday. I have a show opening at ACAR tomorrow. So since January, I've been really pushing.
Yeah.
I keep getting opportunities and I just say yes, and then I make it happen. So
Right. Yeah. Thanks for making it happen.
yeah, well, I had grander ideas for the show, and then at the same time, like, I'm going to revisit the idea because I want to do a show about lore.
Oh.
And I thought everything had to be.
Well, we want to feature that show. I'm going to put my hand up to.
Yeah, no, you definitely can. And I think it should be a group show because I wanted to make everything 2 to 3 foot tall. And I'm like, I can't make these forms that tall.
Right.
So I made 3, miniatures in the last month. And I'm like, well, they should just all be that size,
Right.
football and smaller.
Yeah.
So
Because it's time consuming. So the picture that's up on the screen right now, that piece is, how tall is that? It's not quite 30 inches, is it?
it's probably around 30.
Okay.
I mean, I topped off the top of my dome without that.
Okay.
And things shrink, so
Yeah.
I don't remember. I don't measure after they're fired. And that's again with the space. Like if I had more space, I had more storage, I have a bigger kiln, bigger stuff.
Yeah.
If I want, but just making 20 pieces that size for this show was kind of daunting.
Right.
I couldn't have more than 3
Right.
at a time in space.
Yeah. So tell us about this piece a little bit.
I don't know. I had this. I was actually like mindless for a minute. Like my new mindless moments, they're not as long. So using the stair stepper,
Okay.
I do it for 40 minutes. Maybe I need to do it for like 8 hours so I get into the driving mindlessness. But I don't know. I just thought of a squatting figure with their arms out with plants growing out of their hands. And then, revisiting a former piece with the skeleton suit. My daughter still wears that all the time. And just thinking of, well, it's also spring,
Yeah.
so I feel like the spring has been especially hard and doom and gloom and rain.
Yes.
So, death and rebirth, things like that. So,
Yeah. No, it's true. From death comes life. It seemed to me the way that the figure is squatting though and weighted, was that hard to physically construct and have it stand up? Because it stands up really well.
no, but that's the first one I've tried. And I don't know if I like it or not. I mean, I build hollow, and I know other people build hollow and have more movement. But some of those people will throw parts and move the parts when they're wet. So I'll build hollow, and to build hollow and large, I have to let the bottom, stiffen up. So it's hard to like build a piece and then physically be able to like change its position because it's not going to work.
Right.
So I just thought I'd try, and it wasn't too complicated. It's just balance. But yeah, I might try more. Other people made fun of it because it's squatting.
I like that about it. It gives it some movement. And yeah.
Well, it's like it's being weighed down in a way and trying to balance.
Right.
So,
That's what it looks like. Yeah. I think it works really well. It's a lot of ribs. How many ribs do we have?
I actually looked and counted, and I don't know if I put them all in, but it looks like it's way too many, but it's not. I know it's not more than we have.
That's funny. I feel like I should know more about my body.
I know. Well, you don't have to remember anything because of Google. So.
That's true. Yeah. Google, just put it in our brains.
Now this piece I made 3 times, and I made the first one, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago. I was really excited, and I slipped up the chest, threw it in the kiln, and thought it was dry enough, and I blew the chest out.
Oh.
But it looked good enough to keep, so I kept it, and I patched it and ground it down, so I couldn't fire it again. But and now Anne has it. She's going to paint something on it.
Good.
The second one I made just didn't work. The proportions are weird. It's leaning in a corner in the studio. But then I was pretty happy with this one. It's a little smaller than the other 2. But originally, I wanted to make a tower of pigs, but I've been in 3 different solo shows in the last 3 months, so there will be after tomorrow.
This whole conversation is making me think you need a vacation.
Yeah, I'm taking a weekend off and going to look at pottery at St. Croix. So with Shelley.
Okay, great. No, it's great. So, yeah, he's standing on the pigs. He's holding the pig. It's a piggy bank. They're all piggy banks, if you can't tell from the picture. So.
And I forgot to tell you the title of that. It's supposed to be Feed the Pig. But
So are you just trying to tell your daughter to save her money? Is that?
yeah. Well, the youngest one definitely can't. So she made $25 at the tour. So
Charlotte?
yeah, spending it tonight.
Wow. Good
She
for
made
you.
little kitty dishes. So,
Oh, out of clay.
yeah, out of porcelain. Ann's daughter bought the first one.
Really? Had I only known.
Yeah. Well, there'll be more. She wants the money. She doesn't care about the process. She just wants the money.
Is she in your studio with you very much?
Mm. She could care less. I mean, she's artistic,
Yeah.
but she doesn't care about.
No, I think we have someone for drawings, hanging around here.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, she likes emo. So maybe if I stain some clay, make it brighter and more fun. But...
So she hasn't inspired you to want to work in the female?
Oh, I have. Yeah. I made a baby Yoda, so it's pretty decent. I was proud of myself.
In female?
Yeah.
I wish we had a picture.
What's in my pocket?
So when you're making a sculpture, so this is another large sculpture, and it's also the piece that's behind us. I'm assuming that you have to have a pretty clear idea of what the end result is going to be, because no.
I mean, it depends on what it is, but this one I just wanted to make a big slab plank on top of its head. I don't know if I saw it painted with like a weird balancing thing. I did a sketch, and then on top, I really wasn't sure what I was going to do. And I feel like I do houses all the time, or I used to, so I didn't want to fill that up with houses. And I was into, now I'm trying to make, I guess they're probably more child-sized skulls, but I've been making, bigger skulls. So I made that and put it on there. And then I ordered a femur online. And I was gonna make a mold, a slip cast, because originally I wanted to just cover this thing with femurs, but my space is so small, I'm not gonna get plaster in there. It's just not enough room.
Right.
So after this, I'll give you my GoFundMe account. I'm trying to raise $500,000. Just kidding.
For a bigger studio,
Yeah.
or for lots of femurs?
Well, whatever. I'm open.
I have a question from the audience about process, if you don't mind me interrupting. So Donna Miller was asking if your pieces are slab built or coil.
Yes.
Details.
So I used to coil everything, have real big fat coils, and then kind of, bigger pieces I would flatten them, karate chop them, or paddle them so they're a thick flat coil, and then pinch them up. Now I have a slab roller, and I'll just roll a big slab, and I cut it into strips. So in a way it's strips, but in a way it's like flattened coils, and then I can build taller quicker. And I use my hands so much that all that pinching of regular coils was starting to wear. So now I'm pinching less, and I can build faster, taller, faster, and thinner. So.
And then a second part to that question is, Donna was also wondering if you need to use a form to support the pieces as you're building.
No. No, I so when I work on stuff, like right now in my studio today, I gotta think, a dozen pieces that I'm working on. So it's just cycling through, working on one for a while, moving on to the next, and letting different things set up in different rates.
So for a piece like this big head, for those of us who don't work in clay, you have to start at the bottom and then you have to let it, does it have to get a little bit dry for you to get to a certain height? Is
Yeah,
that-
I mean, I probably built this up to here, from bottom to top right away, and then let it stiffen up enough to get to the, forehead.
Okay,
And then I pushed in for the eye sockets, out for the nose, gave it some, but basically it was a straight cylinder, which it's not too far off from a straight cylinder now. But push out from the inside, give it some volume and shape.
so do you have to, because it's open on the bottom, you have to get your hand under it to push?
No,
it?
I mean, at that point.
Oh,
this
when
is
it's still,
open.
when you still
Yeah.
have this, the top of the,
Yeah.
when the cranium is not, okay. Okay. And then the ears are put on last, is that right?
Yeah. So, I mean, if I'm making something really big, I'm letting the bottom set up, but I'm not letting it dry out. So plastic will be around it long, it'll be
Right,
whatever.
because it can't dry out, right?
Well, in grad school, I had a figure that the feet were dry and the top was still wet. So,
Okay.
but that was like 5.5 foot tall.
Oh.
So,
But the part that it was, you were going to connect with still has to have some
Yeah,
moisture,
yeah.
otherwise it won't.
unless you use paper clay is super forgiving.
Okay. What kind of clay body do you use? Or does it vary?
It varies. And,
Okay.
I mean, I've been using for the 0.6 stuff. It's a standard clay. It's from a company in Pittsburgh. It's called Standard, and it's Brooklyn Red. And then I just got like 100 pounds to black, and I really like that. It's really buttery, kind of like a porcelain,
Okay,
and then it fires black. So some of the pieces are the black.
okay,
So I don't know. I might be using that more.
yeah,
And then, yeah, like this is random stoneware. My wood-fired stuff is always just scrap and random stuff that I've had for decades that I'm still going through. I mean, I'll buy clay from the local clay place, paoli clay, and then reclaim that with other things. So,
Right.
I'm a very dirt studio person, so I'm not, I don't care. My porcelain doesn't stay separate from my stoneware. It just all gets mixed in. So, that's the way I work.
yeah, it's all right, I mean, you gotta figure out how you work. Yeah. So now, because you don't, do you feel like when if we say you're having solo show, does it give you that impetus to work on really large pieces?
Yeah, for some reason. I mean, all the other places I show, I just send them my pots. So you're in tandem will sometimes get small sculptures.
Yeah,
But a lot of the other places are really pottery focused. So,
yeah,
and then I'm not going to ship anything huge.
that's true.
So it's a lot easier to bring it here.
Well, thank goodness we're nearby then.
Yeah. You could probably be 10 hours away and I can still get it here, but everything else is
Right,
quite a bit further.
yeah,
So
right. And then you've been teaching, you've taught on and off through most of your
Mhm.
career as well.
yeah, I mean, I was substitute teaching. I was teaching at home students for free, so I could use a kiln. At Raymond Community Rec Center for quite a while.
You taught at Nance College, you've taught, and now you're not teaching, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would assume, I mean, there's some great things about teaching and that energy with the students, but I would also guess to be in your studio and keep your head in there, 'cause teaching must be exhausting.
I would, after class, I mean, I had a night class and I get done at 8:30, I'd be going to the studio.
Oh,
So I was excited to get done teaching so I could go into the studio though.
okay.
So I don't know. I would like to teach more workshops. I'm teaching a workshop at Ottawa in Dodgeville. I taught one last year, week-long workshop. I'd rather do things like that where people are coming into it, having some knowledge. And then I feel like I teach best if I can react to what they're making,
Okay,
and then I can, talk about the technique or how to build up building, whatever. So I don't want to do demos where I'm just building something from start to finish. Because I don't have interesting enough stories to fill in during the pinching time.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's a lot of time to talk. Well, yeah.
Or I don't have stories that I should share, I guess.
Depending on who the students are. Yeah.
So,
That's funny. So, Anne, Lauren, any questions?
Yeah, there's a question from Mark Skidlarek. He asks, facial imagery seems to dominate the majority of your work. Can you elaborate on influence? Early American face jugs.
Good question, Mark.
I've been looking at face jugs more and more in the last few years, but you know, I should probably start researching it a little bit harder. I'm interested in face jugs. I'm interested in a lot of things, but I feel like all I do is make, and I don't take the time to research more. I've always done figurative work, and don't know anything else. I couldn't produce work like Mark, you know, and stay sane, I guess, because I have to be doing, you know, I do small batches of things. So if I do mugs, I'm doing mugs today, so I have 7 bird mugs that I'm doing, and at the same time I'm doing like very intricate carved porcelain stuff. So I couldn't sit down and throw 300 mugs like Mark probably does, or Bruce Hoddle used to make 300 to 400 mugs in 2 days and pull handles on them. I would just freak out. So
Yeah, you must have to get into some sort of Zen state.
yeah, and that's, you know, I mean, I guess that's not my background, so I don't know how to get into that state of production like that. So.
Right. Yeah, it's funny, I think as an artist, I mean, at least for me, it's like at some point when you develop what it is that you do, you think, I'm really good at this thing, but I'm very good at just this thing, this very narrow thing, and you see what other artists do and you think they could never do that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, Mark fills up, you know, a kiln that's half the size of your gallery and by himself in a month and a half. He's a machine. And he's a good cook too, on top. So. I gained 5 pounds after the weekend. So.
Because he was hosting you at the.
Yeah. There's nonstop food. It's really great.
Yeah. Is Firefest happening again in Cambridge this year?
Yeah.
And will you be doing anything there?
I'm gonna help fire the kiln if they want me to or not. But Marlene Miller is the sculptor this year.
Yeah. So for people who don't know what that is, tell people what Firefest is.
Can we get Mark live on this?
Just briefly.
Firefest is in Cambridge. It's I don't know the dates off the top of my head, but it's mid to end July. And they have a guest artist that makes a sculpture in an envelope kiln. It's a stack of bricks for a firebox with 6 openings. And then on top, you build your sculpture. And after you build it, they slowly dry it out for a week, but they put a big metal frame, fiber frax lined flower petal kiln on top of it. So they fire it slowly for a week, and then on Saturday night of the festival, they, you know, it gets the temperature, they open it up, flame shoots everywhere, throw sawdust on it. There's fire dancers, there's music.
And you made the really large sculpture one year, right?
Yeah, and I would like to vandalize it and do a new one. But we just got back from Japan, and then the next day I was building the piece, so I think I needed some time off. But I never had so much adrenaline in my life. It was so much fun.
That's great.
So.
And then Marlene Miller, who also shows here at the gallery, is going to be making the sculpture this year.
Yeah, I'm excited.
And her work is also figurative, and it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
So Firefest is July 23rd and 24th in Cambridge, Wisconsin.
Great.
So the
Firefest.com.
Firefest is based around everything made with fire. So it's, you know, anything from glass, metal, clay, and then there's, Mark's gonna make fun of me because I don't remember any of the terms, but like they bourbon barrels, they scorch the inside. They have demos of that there.
Okay.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And they pick, you know, the hottest month to have all this fire around. So it's perfect.
It's great. Anyway, if you're in the Wisconsin area, it's worth the drive. It'll be super fun.
I might try to have a booth there to see what happens. So we're also looking for a house. So I don't know if I'll be building, you know, if I'll be taking time off and building a studio or
Right.
what's going to happen.
So that's tricky. So if you move and you have to build a studio, you have to sort of stop production for a little bit. And it's tough.
Yeah. Luckily, I think I made half of my living in the last month and a half. So half of my yearly living.
Good.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. It's just been, it's been so great just watching your work evolve over these years. And I don't know how many times we've featured your work now, but a number of times. There were a few times in our old gallery in Paolite, you had a really great show called False Idols.
Oh yeah, it's one of my favorite.
Yeah, that was in our old cooler space, and it was really all you had taken the time to study some forms from pre-Columbian work, and it was this great mix of like your imagery and historic forms, and
Yeah, and I would love to do that again. I mean, I'm still trying to make some pre-Columbian pieces. I am making, you know, Mark mentioned the face jugs. I'm making some around the same time in North Carolina. They had a lot of these weird little animal bottles. So I've been doing more of those, birds and pigs, things like that. But I would like to make more historical pieces.
Yeah.
I mean, you have some here. Every once in a while they pop up. But
Yeah. No, it's great. And it's always exciting. So any more questions?
Yeah, I have a question from Matt Huck Gent. He asks, did you work in other mediums before clay?
I really liked printmaking, doing wood cuts, wood blocks. I did a little of that in grad school too. Coming up with a 2D image is difficult for me, you know, filling an entire sheet of paper. It was hard. So most of those were just based on like personal, you know, things at the time.
Do you still have any of those? It'd be so interesting.
I don't know. I burned all the blocks because I was tired of carrying them. I don't know. I mean, you get the print studio here going, I'd definitely cut some blocks.
Yeah, great. Oh, that'd be terrific.
Yeah.
Well, and you used to do a lot of carved work.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm doing some today.
Are you? Okay.
So.
Oh, cool. So actually we had a bowl from a long, long time ago. It was this beautiful green. Well, you've been to my house, and we'd use it all the time, and it would be out if you were having to.
Get it out of the back closet.
No, not in that closet, but anyway, Tim just broke it.
That's good though, you're using it.
No, I
that's what
know.
happens.
I try to think about that because I think about you and other potters that I know who make functional work who just say, use it.
Yeah.
Don't be precious about it. But then when they break, you think, oh.
We interviewed Mark, it's good, Larry, Michelle Miller and I are trying to do a podcast. And one of the great things he said, he had Laura's Fortune's partner.
Oh, Bill.
Bill Farrell.
Yes.
Piece that chipped, broke, he glued back together. And it's just got all this history of use, and he just, you know, keeps using it. And
Well, if I can repair pieces, I will. But Tim was washing the dishes and it slipped out of his hand and it just,
yeah.
You know, so I need another carved bowl.
I had some.
Yeah, someday.
Christmas.
Christmas. And we have some nice mark bowls too at home that we use all the time. Anyway, anything else you want to say about this show?
I don't know. I mean, it's really great having a deadline, something to push forward. And, you know, it's nice seeing, you know, doing art fairs, pottery tours, you know, your work is displayed differently. So it's nice seeing it in a gallery and gives it a different presence.
Yeah. Well, and you know, you said something earlier where you said something very self-deprecating about you would have done this, you know, you never have enough time. But I just want to remind you that the show is outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
You always do that to yourself. You're always hard on yourself.
Yeah.
And I can't think of a show you've ever had when
Yeah.
the first word out of your mouth when you delivered the work to the gallery was, I wish I had more time. I wanted to do this. I hope it's okay.
Yeah.
And it's always really very, very.
Yeah, I'm not ever super content with my work. I want it to be better.
Yeah. Which I guess drives you. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like
tamp that down really.
in a corner crying,
Right.
depressed, but I just, you know, I see other work, and especially now on Instagram, like every day I go on, how do I not know about this person?
Right.
They're amazing. And then I'll see, you know, that they're like 20 years younger than me. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. They're already in this.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so that drives me. It's just, you know, it's a weird competitive, non-competitive, competitive thing. But
Yeah. No, I've definitely talked to artists sometimes. I think a lot of us become artists who like, it's not athletics, so we don't have to be competitive.
yeah,
But there is that feeling sometimes, you know, if you go and see someone's work and it's so great and you have that mix of like, it makes you feel really great and really bad at the same time. Like
Mhm.
you feel bad because you think whatever that person is doing is so beautiful. It just makes you want to destroy everything you ever did because you're not that good. But you also at the same time feel charged up to get in your studio and
Yeah.
do better. It's actually kind of a good feeling.
Mhm. Yes.
Well, anything else before we,
I have a question. So probably more so than any other artist in the gallery, we get a lot of people that come in and see your work and are just like instantly so disturbed by it for some reason. And they're like, this is so creepy. Who would want this? Who would use it?
Base.
Yeah. And I was wondering, is that something that you're like intentionally doing? Are you trying to freak people out? Or is it just like anytime you give something a face, it's a little off?
I think it's if I didn't stain things, and the wood-fired stuff, you know, like that gives it kind of more of a creepy factor. It looks more distressed and older and whatever. But if I didn't stain things and they were all bright and playful, I don't think all the pieces would do that. So.
sometimes I think it's the teeth.
Oh yeah, there's way too many teeth, and they're all the same size.
Yeah.
So.
It's weird though, Lauren, I mean, we know that, yes, there are people, and then they'll say, who would live with this? It's so strange. And then I'll say, well, actually, he's one of the top selling, you know, artists in the gallery, and people who live with it want it, and they sort of seem surprised. So it is a very interesting thing, but it's the thing that but you know that even the people who maybe had some reaction it was pretty intense for them, it resonated with them.
Yeah. Well,
like they think about it.
Matt Huck probably bought one of my previous pieces this last weekend. He's listening. It's for the lower work. So I made these figures that have no heads and they have faces on their stomach and they're naked. And he bought it, and it's like my wife told me before I came I couldn't buy one. So
well done.
So wait until I do the lore pieces. They can be really creepy. And those be on purpose. So.
Yeah. But I think there's something to the teeth too, though, because I mean, Kelly Houtman and I have had this conversation about paintings. Like most paintings, if they're portrait paintings,
Don't have teeth.
Painting teeth. Somehow teeth are great when they're in real life and someone is smiling at you, but somehow through translation and art, I mean, Lauren, you're the art historian, don't you think it's usually a grimace or something? It's not, teeth are not great in portraits.
Yeah, so, and I think that mostly is a like old monkey brain carryover, because like in primates, if you're showing, in most other animals, if you're seeing teeth, that's a sign of aggression. And I think there's still some part of our brain that reads that as such.
Huh. I mean, it's pretty obvious after you said it. Said everything has teeth now.
Yeah.
Oh. That's funny. Wow, are we going to end on Ryan's work is creepy, or?
Yeah. It's not
Well,
forever.
I could talk a little bit about the flip side of that, of what, when people come in and say, who would want to live with that?
Yeah.
I think the other side of that coin is the people that come back over and over again and buy your work because they're so intrigued by it. So I think it's two sides of a coin there.
Right.
The people that are freaked out and the people that are intrigued by, maybe by that creepy element, or just fascinated by the way you handle your work.
Yeah. It's also
No, and sometimes it is the people that come in and have a really strong reaction that then they leave with a piece. Like, so.
Yeah, that's true too.
No, it's true. There have been some people who've said, like, when I first visited your gallery, I wasn't sure that I liked this guy's stuff, and now I keep visiting and I can't stop it. Yeah. Well, and I mean, I don't know how many pieces that we have of your work at home. I've lost count. Like, and I think, and I still I mean, I refrain because I have a lot and I want other people to buy them and pays the bills, but
well, you just need to paint more and then you can just trade.
Okay, we'll do that. And then, which we've done in the past, but because the work's always evolving. So if people love your work and then they come and they see the next show and they're like, oh, but now he's doing this thing. And then they have to have one of those. And I know that feeling because I feel that way. And so people will actually sometimes come in and say, how many are too many Ryan Myers pieces? Because I have 10 of them now. And I'll say, I don't know. I have over 20. I don't even know what you're talking about. Just
how many do you have, Ian?
How many do I have? I think 10 years ago, I lost count after 30. So. Matt Huck also wrote, can't wait, I'm surrounded with Ryan Myers pieces in my home. So he's in good company.
Nice display of my work. It's great.
That's terrific. Yeah, we have a giant head of yours in our backyard.
Yeah.
And we live on a somewhat busy street in Madison. And sometimes when I meet people, and at least it's a street that people would recognize. And you meet someone and they go, oh, where do you live? And then I say, what street I live on? And then they go, oh, where about? And then I sort of narrow it down, and then they'll go, do you have that big creepy head in your backyard? I say, yeah, that's where I live.
I put a little boy out in my yard every year. And my neighbor, every time I talk to him, when you first put that out every spring, it's like freaks the hell out of me. So I'll look over and there's just a small child standing in your garden. So it's kind of fun.
That's great.
My oldest daughter, when I was an undergrad, I started making some larger figures and I couldn't sell them. And she would like hold her hands and talk to them, which was pretty funny. And not freaky at all.
Yeah. I'm going to ask her about that the next time I see her. If she remembers doing that.
I don't know if she would or not.
That's funny. That's great. Yes. So we're ending, unless there's any more questions, we're ending on people are obsessed with Ryan Myers.
Good place to end.
Okay. Well, everyone who joined us. We're all obsessed with Ryan Myers. You know what? I want to say something else because we're always a little bit joking about you. I think it's just because you're like in your own weird way, you're kind of an artist rock star, but you're so like unassuming about it. Like you don't wanna, and in our old space in Teolai, the alternative special exhibition space was this cooler, and I still regret that we didn't have a show of yours in there that said, that was called Ryan Myers is Cooler Than You.
Yeah, that was the idea of the one.
So maybe we'll,
I don't know.
no, it was probably good. Anyway, so for anyone watching this, if they want to tell people that they can watch it again later, it's recorded and it can be watched again later on Facebook. Lauren will link it to the page for your show on our website. The entire show is on our website. Every piece is photographed so you can see every individual piece. There are a few pieces that are still available and some really good ones, believe it or not, at abelcontemporary.com, and the show's up through May 29th. And this has been great.
It's been fun.
Thanks for joining us, and thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, thanks everyone for watching.
Good night.